Hello, welcome to a Forces News special live broadcast from Buckingham Palace on the day of the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III and Her Majesty Queen Camilla. It is rather rain-soaked at Buckingham Palace, mirroring in many ways the coronation of Her late Majesty the Queen in 1953. But despite the weather, spirits certainly have not been dampened. I'm Tim Cooper, and over the next hour or so, we'll be focusing in very squarely on the military personnel involved in this truly memorable, moving and magnificent day. We'll in particular follow the coronation procession, which will be with us in the next few minutes. But as we see some of the personnel already outside Buckingham Palace, the naval contingent there standing proudly in the rain, waiting for the procession, many military personnel have been involved right through the day. In fact, there are 9,000 serving personnel involved in this whole coronation process. Those on parade or in Westminster Abbey, those lining the procession route, or indeed involved in the behind-the-scenes work, the vital stuff that makes all this work, the logistics, the training, the practice, the repetition. Now, let's start this broadcast, live Forces News broadcast, by looking back to dawn today, when these were the scenes at Waterloo Station. No commuters, as you can see. Well, there are commuters, but they're just slightly different ones to normal. Guardsmen walking through in their bearskin hats. Here are the Commonwealth contingent, or at least some of them, making their way through wonderful multitude of uniforms that we can see there. Royal Marines, their turn. And now, slightly difficult manoeuvres for the drummers and the bagpipers there. And up we go to get it through the ticket barrier. Good job, well done you. So yeah, that was the scene just after dawn. Spectators there to see this spectacle, and these men and women of the armed forces have made their way into various stations around here, and it has been, to use the pun, a massive military operation just to get everybody in place. Huge logistical challenge, because 9,000 military personnel, that's an awful lot. There go the senior service coming through, and some Lancers there as well. Some Gurkha personnel too, and there we go, the RAF marching through. Of course, it's been quite a treat getting them through there, and there they are marching away from Waterloo Station. Now we're back live outside Buckingham Palace, where the poncho is a fashionable and very useful item of clothing today as the rain continues to come down. What lucky people, though, to be there in such a prime location to witness what is happening here today. You'll note there military personnel lining the street. They are what we call the street liners. They've been in position from 9:40 this morning. The route, or the whole route, is lined by 45 half companies, as they're known, from the Royal Navy, Royal Marines, British Army and Royal Air Force, each one comprising one officer and 20 other ranks. The street liners, as you can see them there, placed at 5-pace intervals right along the route. That's known in military terminology as the 5-pace extend. And they'll be right down the route, adding yet more colour and excitement to this day. And we're getting a wonderful view of them as we pan down just the top bit of the mall here. Now, this parade was due to be with us in just a few minutes' time, but they are slightly running behind schedule, I gather, at Westminster Abbey. So we will wait a little longer, I think, than expected. But that does give us the opportunity to once more return to the start of the day, and we got really special access to Hyde Park Barracks, the home of the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment, and our Forces News reporter Claire Sadler was down there very early to speak to a very important person, Lieutenant Colonel James Shaw, who has the honour, in his capacity of Brigade Major, of leading the forthcoming coronation procession.
Today I have the honour of leading the coronation procession back up the Mall.
How are you feeling about that?
I won't lie, there's a couple of nerves, mainly because I have to go on one of these things, but also hugely excited and I think focused on the task like everybody in the armed forces are today.
Yeah, tell me about the planning then. There's been sort of a lot of work gone into this?
Yes, 6 months of planning. We're deployed for about 6 hours today, so roughly 1 hour of planning, 1 month of planning for every hour we're on parade.
I mean, and incredible, though, to be part of this historic event for everybody, including yourself.
It is. I mean, Coronation has been going on for 1,000 years, and today we get to play our part in, one of huge parts of British history, so very exciting.
Lieutenant Colonel James Shaw there talking to our reporter Claire Sadler as we're back live at the Victoria Memorial at the head of the Mall just outside Buckingham Palace. The horse you saw there is the horse that James will be riding today. Look out for them, as I say, at the head of the procession in a few minutes' time. His horse, incidentally, goes by the name of Sovereign's Shadow, and couldn't be more appropriately named, I think, for this wonderful role that is taking them to the heart and start of that procession today. Let's talk a little bit more about the animals involved that you'll see coming up shortly. There are 250 military working horses involved in the procession today, 171 from the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment and 78 from King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. And they always add such glamour and spectacle to the procession. My particular favourites are the drum horses. They are such beautiful horses. They are called Atlas from the Lifeguards and Apollo from the Blues and Royals. They hold the rank of Major, and they're the ones that have the massive silver timpani kettle drums to you and I on them, going bang, bang, bang as they come up. They're a highlight of the parade for me, so watch out for Apollo and Atlas. So, what beautiful scenes we have in London today. What atmosphere, the hustle and bustle of the crowd, chatting excitedly to each other ahead of this parade that's about to begin very soon for us. If you're just joining us, welcome. Thank you very much indeed for doing so. This is Tim Cooper with you live with this wonderful picture from outside Buckingham Palace on Coronation Day 2023. And there is Buckingham Palace itself, the residence, of course, of the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom. The royal standard flying proudly. Camera positions mounted on there to get the view down the Mall. Buckingham Palace will play a major role in what happens later on today, where their majesties will arrive and all of the military personnel, or at least 4,500 of them as I understand it, will be in the back garden of Buckingham Palace, where they will give 3 cheers to their majesties, the King and Queen. Let's look now to the start of the military events today, and we can go back in time once more to the moment where we first got to see the King and Queen come out of the palace. This is earlier on today, just a few moments' time. There it is, the wonderful Diamond Jubilee State Coach. Now, this is quite new. It looks, I know, incredibly old and ancient, but it's been built and was first used by the late Queen at the state opening of Parliament in 2014. And it has things like air conditioning and hydraulic stabilisers. So much more comfortable for their journey out. But when they come back down the Mall, having been crowned, in just a few minutes' time, they will be back in the traditional state coach, which is hundreds of years old, not the most comfortable, but certainly the most spectacular that there is. Looking over the beautiful display of red tulips to the Mall there, and once again the streetliners and police, of course, keeping everyone safe today. And it is a ray of brightness there in the drab skies. Such a shame, isn't it? But not to worry, it is the way these things are. The standard party there just sloping arms. And now standing at ease. It's very important when you are a member of the military on parade that you shift your weight basically and move position from time to time. It gets incredibly tiring holding a colour or indeed your weapon, and you do need to swap that about, and that's what I believe was happening just there. They're now standing at ease, having shifted the position of their rifles. Now, that wonderful Victoria monument that you see there is, of course, a memorial to Her late Majesty Queen Victoria, and placed here as we zoom out to see it in most of its glory. A few camera positions there, but there it is, and there is Queen Victoria, and beautiful gold right on the top there. And if we come just a little bit further down again, we can see the late Queen sitting there, looking out, holding the orb and looking off down to the Mall. It was designed in 1901, shortly after Queen Victoria's death, and unveiled on the 16th of May 1911, but it wasn't actually finished until 1924. And it all fits in with the styling and evolution of the Mall itself, because the Mall has been a thing for an awfully long time, and it was a place to promenade in the 17th and 18th centuries. But in the early 20th century, after the death of Queen Victoria, it's envisaged as being a grand ceremonial route to mirror those that you see in places like Berlin or Paris, Oslo, St. Petersburg and so forth. And it was designed for what it is being used for now, as the home of major national ceremonies. And I can tell you the exact length of the Mall. It's 0.5 nautical miles. Why nautical? Well, it runs down to Admiralty Arch, the senior service, the former home of the Royal Navy there. So 0.5 nautical miles long. And if you've ever been to the Mall in London, you'll see that the tarmac isn't as normal. It is coloured red. And why is this? Well, it's to give the impression of a giant red carpet leading up to Buckingham Palace. And I'm so knowledgeable that I know it's iron oxide pigment that's involved in that. But actually, here's an interesting thing. It was only put there by the Minister of Works, David Eccles, in the years 1951 to 1954. So that's quite a recent innovation, the red colour of the Mall. These are live pictures coming to you on the feeds of Forces News and on BFBS. And we are looking across the thousands of people who are the real lucky ones to have such a wonderful position in this spectacle today. I'm pleased to tell you that the wonderful coronation procession is on its way down the Mall and will be with us very, very soon. And we'll talk you through in detail all about the military's involvement in this element of it. The procession, I can tell you, is formed of 8 groups supported by 19 bands and is led by the Brigade Major of the Household Division, the gentleman we just heard from a few moments ago, Lieutenant Colonel James Shaw of the Grenadier Guards. He'll be accompanied by 4 Corporal Majors of the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment. Now, the Household Cavalry Mounted Band and King Street Royal Horse Artillery lead the procession, followed by around 400 service personnel from the armed forces of the Commonwealth. And that will be a spectacular sight because they're flanked by 114 guardsmen of the Household Division carrying Realm and Commonwealth flags. Then we have the RAF with 3 marching detachments from the British Army behind them, leading the British Army contingent. The Royal Navy detachment are closest to the Sovereign, and there's a reason for that. They're the senior service, so their position is as close to the sovereign as possible, and that is why they're closest to the gold state coach. And there we are once more with the sailors guarding Buckingham Palace. As we once more survey the scene at this end of the Mall. There are many more highlights of the day aside from this parade we're about to witness. Later, the royal family will take to the balcony, as is now traditional, and wave to the crowds. And we're hoping, although weather dependent this certainly is, there might be a fly past of a variety of wonderful military aircraft. But the weather, as you can see, isn't the best. As we glimpse at last the start of the procession, they are mounted police officers just leading the way. Oh, sorry, they're not, are they? I'm too far away for me to see properly that one. But here they come as the parade gets underway. And that is Lieutenant Colonel James Shaw there, leading the parade, flanked by 4 corporal majors of the Household Cavalry and Grenadier Guards. Of course, my completely deliberate mistake there was it's James Shaw is from the Grenadier Guards. The corporal majors are from, of course, the Household Cavalry. And here come now the Household Cavalry Mounted Band in King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. There you can see the drum horses Atlas and Apollo with their timpani. And this is King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery, making their way around the other side of the Queen Victoria Memorial. Beautiful sound of the hooves cutting through the glorious music, a cacophony of delightful sounds. And what wonderful pictures these are. Horses behaving beautifully, the uniforms sparkling despite the rain. Amazing. There we go, that was the first tranche of personnel coming round, and now we can see the next lot coming into position just on the left of our shot. And this is Group 2 of the parade. Our friends from the Commonwealth nations. Beautiful selection of uniforms coming through. There are 56 flags you'll see in a few moments representing the 56 members of the Commonwealth countries. Also 6 flags of British overseas territories as well. I was lucky enough to see the rehearsal for this coronation procession, and so amazing to see so many nations of the Commonwealth taking part. The British overseas territories taking part in this procession are Bermuda, Gibraltar, the Cayman Islands, Montserrat, the Falkland Islands and the Turks and Caicos Islands. A special note in the Commonwealth contingent today are the 2 newest member countries of the Commonwealth. They are Togo and Gabon, and interestingly both are not, as the majority of the rest of the Commonwealth are, former members of the British Empire, but were formerly part of French-controlled Africa and joined the Commonwealth in 2022. Personnel marching round. I've been expecting to see them surrounded by the 56 flags, but that appears not to be the case, certainly at this stage. Music provided for this section by the Band of the Royal Regiment of Scotland, the Highland Band of the Royal Regiment of Scotland and the Lowland Band of the Royal Regiment of Scotland. Detachment 3, Group 3, the Royal Air Force. Combined bands of the Royal Air Force marching alongside representative detachments from Royal Air Force Halton, the Royal Auxiliary Air Force and Royal Air Force Cranwell. As the newest branch of the armed services, they parade first. Combined bands of the Royal Air Force. See, they're all marching into the forecourt area of Buckingham Palace, where they'll proceed round to the garden area and form up. That's a process that takes some little time, as you can imagine, and they'll wait their majesties before they give them 3 cheers later. The Royal Air Force draw near the end of their part in the procession. We move to Group 4, the Army Royal Armoured Corps. Contained in this group, the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, the Queen's Royal Hussars, first the Queen's Dragoon Guards, the Royal Dragoon Guards, and they're supported on their journey through music by the British Army Band Sandhurst and the British Army Band Colchester. We're also seeing here the King's Royal Hussars, the Royal Tank Regiment, the Royal Wessex Yeomanry, the Scottish and Northern Irish Yeomanry, the Royal Lancers, the Light Dragoons, the Royal Yeomanry and the Queen's Own Yeomanry. They make it look easy, don't they? But it's only easy because they've spent hours, weeks, months practicing to make it perfect. And it is. They go to take their place in the garden. More than 4,000 personnel from the British Army alone taking part in this today. 900 from the Royal Navy and Royal Marines, 900 from the Royal Air Force, and 400 personnel, as we've seen, from the Commonwealth, overseas territories and realms. This is the tale of the fourth group, the Royal Army Royal Armoured Corps, making their way through, which leads us neatly on to Group 5, the Army Corps and Infantry, led by the Corps Colonels. These personnel are from the Royal Corps of Engineers, the Royal Regiment of Scotland, the Duke of Lancaster's Regiment, the Royal Anglian Regiment, the Royal Regiment of Artillery, along with the Royal Corps of Signals, the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment, and the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers. A multitude of uniforms and cap badges, all with resonance and meaning to those wearing them today, all representative of their past, their antecedents have achieved, and what they aspire to achieve today. just seen the Mercian Regiment, Royal Irish Regiment, Royal Gurkha Rifles, Royal Yorkshire Regiment, Royal Welsh and Parachute Regiment, with the Band of the Brigade of Gurkhas and the Band of the Rifles, which leads us to the senior service. Detachments from right across the Royal Navy and the Royal Navy Reserves, and His Majesty's Royal Marines bands Collingwood and Portsmouth. They spent a lot of their time training for this role. HMS Excellent on Whale Island in Portsmouth. And the Royal Marines now. Representatives from the regular Royal Marines and the Royal Marines Reserve, the Commando Training Centre Royal Marines. Now the massed foot guard band, Coldstream Guards, Irish Guards, Welsh Guards, Scots Guards and Grenadier Guards. And this signifies the start of the 8th group of personnel marching, the household procession. Right at the very core of this ceremonial procession, surrounding and flanking, ultimately, the state coach itself. A variety of uniforms from people like the Royal Company of Archers, the Royal Waterman, Yeoman Jailer, Yeoman Warders, Honourable Corps of Gentlemen at Arms. Beautiful plumes and feathers they wear in their hats. So they make their way round to the other side of the Queen Victoria Memorial, and there we see the Yeoman Warders who carry mean-looking axes. Here come the Mounties, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And beaming smiles there on their faces. Delighted to be part of this. The Staff Captain, Major General commanding the Household Division and Aide-de-Camp, followed by the 1st Division of the Sovereign's Escort, the Blues and Royals. They will be very shortly followed by the 2nd Division of the Sovereign's Escort, who are also from the Blues and Royals. Beautiful view of the massed foot guards bands. And now the state coach is just making its appearance. Royal carriages making their way through. You see entering Buckingham Palace there. The procession, which has the state coach within it. Drawn by 8 grey horses, we can just see there, conveying His Majesty the King and Her Majesty Queen Camilla, with 9 representatives each side of the Commonwealth realms. The Sovereign Standard Household Cavalry. There they go. And they go through the arch there, and I wonder how they're feeling. They make their way in. Wow. The rain continues to pour down. It's getting heavier by the minute, I suspect. Spectacle it has been. Bringing up the rear of the procession. You're with Forces News. Thank you very much for being with us as we've witnessed the pinnacle of the day's military activity. They've been involved, of course, right through the day, from early dawn, in every element of this wonderful day of national celebration for Their Majesty's coronation. And it doesn't end there, because all of those personnel that you'll have seen marching through are now making their way into Buckingham Palace Gardens, the very last ones taking up their position, where there will be a royal salute, the national anthem will play, and in a few minutes' time Their Majesties will appear in front of their massed sailors, soldiers and aviators, and they will hear 3 cheers, which will be led by Garrison Sergeant Major Vern Stokes, who's been the man instrumental in making this all happen and work as perfectly as it has done. And then a little later, there is the fly past, which is part of this, which has become very traditional in royal events. The royal family will line up on the balcony at the front of Buckingham Palace to watch a fly past. Now, there's been a lot of concern about whether this would take place, and it looks like it might, I think, is the news I'm getting at this stage in time. The weather, as you know, is pretty appalling, but hopefully it will. And we do have a bit of film of one of the elements of the fly past that we think has just taken off. There we go. Footage from my colleague Sian Grezczyk and Hannah King. Chinook helicopters there, flying from RAF Odium in Hampshire. So it looks like at least part of the air display will take place this afternoon. Haven't got much more detail on that for you, but certainly some is better than none, that's for sure. And what a wonderful sight it will be to see those Chinooks and whatever else we get with them come down and fly over this part of the city, our capital city of London. Still movement outside Buckingham Palace as the various guards, musicians will make their way in a few moments' time into the courtyard area. Some of the military will be staying in the front courtyard, whilst the bulk, as I say, some 4,500 will be at the rear of that courtyard. Well, this is Forces News. Thank you very much for being with us, and we'll stay on there a little bit longer to catch any more of this military detail as we can, as we indeed see some of the guardsmen make their way through into Buckingham Palace there. Amazing pictures once more as the next group of musicians prepare to move into the palace. Little more words come through now on the fly past. The good news, it is definitely on. Not sure if it's going to be the full fly past as billed, but it will include, we're told, Chinook helicopters, and we've seen a bit of footage of those, along with Typhoons, the Voyager, and C-17. So that should be taking place at 7:30. So in they go to Buckingham Palace, and we'll see more colour coming up the Mall in just a few moments' time. The Commonwealth flags are making their way up, as indeed are the streetliners. Flags from countries such as Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Brunei Darussalam, Fiji, Tanzania, Rwanda, St Kitts and Nevis, Zambia. So that will be the final sight as the Yeoman Warders, I believe, with their CR insignia clearly displayed, making the journey into the palace. Flags going into the left-hand side entrance of Buckingham Palace as a look. Slightly out of our shot, unfortunately, but very much in our shot. The King's Troop coming in now. King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery there. At any one time, the King's Troop has 120 horses, mostly from Ireland. They're not a specific breed, but are selected primarily for their agility and hardiness. There are 3 different sorts of horse in King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. Chargers, ridden by officers, must be a minimum of 17 hands high. That's extremely big. Leaders are between 13.3 hands and 60.1 hands, and are really athletic horses with a good turn of speed. And the wheelers, often named the chunky monkeys, they're the horses that are strong and powerful, thicker set, but smaller in stature at 15.1 to 15.3 hands, and they need strength to act as the brakes for the guns that they're pulling. As the royal carriages, now without their royal charges on board, leave Buckingham Palace. As those horses' hooves disappear, a sudden strange silence casts itself across the area. For the last, goodness me, half an hour has been a sight of noise, of excitement, of music, of marching feet, of horses' hooves, and of a new era beginning, the era of King Charles III. More movement as more military personnel have finished this part of their job role today, and they'll be making their way, I believe, along the side of Green Park, so turning left in a few moments' time and heading up in that direction. A few frisky horses there. They've been very well behaved for the majority of the day. They look keen to be on the move once more. Let me reacquaint you with a few key facts of the day from the military's standpoint. This is the largest military spectacle we've seen for decades, and it involves 9,000 members of the armed forces. 7,000 of them, certainly the majority, you'll have seen in the last few minutes, marching past, and the ceremonial aspect of it. And they're broken down like this. 1,000 have been doing streetliner duties right along the procession route from here at Buckingham Palace, down the Mall, through Trafalgar Square, down Whitehall and to Westminster Abbey. 200 personnel were there first thing this morning in the King's procession, where the King and Queen left Buckingham Palace in the Diamond Jubilee coach and made their way to Westminster Abbey. 4,000 personnel have been involved in this coronation procession from the Abbey at the conclusion of the service. And then there have been gun salutes right around the United Kingdom, from Edinburgh to Portsmouth to right here at Hyde Park, and a salvo of guns went off just around midday today. The flypast is taking place at 2:30, and we'll bring you pictures of that event a little bit later on our Forces News website and social media channels, so do keep an eye out for that. In case you're just joining us, the flypast has been altered slightly because of the appalling weather conditions, low cloud in particular, making it very difficult for that flypast, as we watch some more slightly frisky horses come out of the gates. But we do understand that there will be certain elements that are taking part in it, and they include the Voyager aircraft, the Typhoon, C-17 and Chinook helicopters, which have taken off from RAF Odium. And I wonder if again we could take a quick look at the footage that we've managed to get from on board the helicopter, which would be nice to see once more. Beautiful pictures, a very short clip, there we go, taken from on board one of the Chinooks that's flying into London as we speak, and will come over here to Buckingham Palace a little later on this afternoon. Now, we're getting towards the end of our coverage, but we are waiting for the 3 cheers. And although we don't have a camera, sadly, in the grounds of Buckingham Palace, from being at the rehearsal at RAF Odium last week, 4,000 soldiers shouting 3 cheers, we will certainly hear it from our camera position. I say certainly, I hope so. I'm sure we will. And that is about to take place in any moment now. The personnel are all lined up on the lawn of the palace, and their Majesties will, in a few moments' time, make their way to the steps which come down from the terrace at the palace, where they will be saluted, the national anthem will play, which I'm sure we will hear, and those 3 cheers will ring out. Yet. Coronation is a very British affair. I know other kings and queens around the world are crowned, but it's been a part of our history for hundreds, thousands of years, really. This, of course, just the latest coronation, and it takes us right back. Westminster Abbey was used for Harold II in 1066, believe it or not. And Westminster Abbey is the place where traditionally coronations have taken place, but not exclusively. Other locations have been used down the years. Not all coronations have gone to plan either, particularly. Some are less well remembered than others, let's put it that way. In particular, Queen Victoria, such a famous queen and such a famous era in our history, her coronation was quite chaotic, and there were a lot of complaints about it, that it hadn't worked very well. There was no real new music made for it. I think there was just one new piece of music made for it, and it was nowhere near as grand as the preceding king. Now, in the garden of Buckingham Palace, the royal salute is taking place. I can tell you, but we sadly can't see, but their Majesties are standing, gazing, looking on in admiration at their armed forces. Flags are lowered in the garden. The troops are sloping arms, the colours are raised once more, and in just a few moments' time we will hear a command for headdress to be removed, and that has happened now. Garrison Sergeant Major Vern Stokes giving the orders. The headdresses have been removed, and in any second we will hear 3 cheers. Oh well, not sure we did hear it, did we? Not to worry. Thank you so much for being with us. I've been Tim Cooper, and this has been a Forces News production today as the contingent or part of the Royal Marines Band there begins to play us out. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget the Fly Past coverage, which will be on Forces News social media pages later in the day. Look out for that. It promises to be quite the spectacle as ever as Their Majesties and other members of the royal family take to the balcony at Buckingham Palace to watch the aerial assets of the British Armed Forces fly over. Thanks very much indeed for being with us. Do, as I say, check out all Forces News social media platforms and our website, forces.net, for loads more coronation-related content, including wonderful pieces about the preparations for this day. But for me, Tim Cooper, as the parade marches away, thank you so much for watching, and from me and the entire team, goodbye.
Tall, fair head up to balls, and he's bowled him.
It's going to be out. It's going to be out.
That's in the air. That's got to be caught.
She goes aerial. She could well be caught. Oh, it's caught. He's taken it on the second chance.
And it's been caught about a yard inside the boundary.